Have you ever put something in the crock pot, walked away, you're confident you're making dinner, and then 8 hours later, you realize you never plugged the thing in? That happened to me yesterday. I came back ready for the smell of victory and instead discovered the saddest bowl of raw chicken and soggy vegetables you've ever seen. But here's the thing, the crock pot only works if it stays plugged in. You can season it, prep it, stir it, talk to it in faith, but if it doesn't stay connected to the power source, nothing happens. And Jesus says the same thing in John 15. Apart from me, you can do nothing. Today, we're talking about staying connected, abiding, grace that stays. Welcome to Grace in the Grind, brought to you by Arrow and Roots Coffee Company, where faith meets the everyday. Here we slow down long enough to notice God's presence in the middle of life's busiest moments, to find encouragement, clarity, and a reminder of His grace in the grind of daily life. Now grab your coffee and let's take a sip of this cup together. We talk a lot about beginnings, new goals, new seasons, fresh starts, but what about staying? What about the days the excitement fades? When the new feels ordinary again? When you're still doing the right things, but you can't always see results? Christy and I have been married a little over 6 years now, and we're coming up on that inevitable 7 year mark. Some people call it the 7 year itch, that point where satisfaction starts to fade and distance can slowly grow if you're not paying attention. It's that season when the new is worn off and the work of staying close takes more intentionality than the excitement of starting ever did. And honestly, that's true for more things than just marriage. When the new wears off, we stop putting in the effort. We lose focus. And if we're not careful, what could have deepened begins to drift. That same slow drift can show up anywhere in our jobs, our friendships, our callings, and especially in our spiritual lives. We live in a world that thrives on short attention spans and instant results. Our devices refresh every few seconds, our entertainment is on demand, and if something doesn't give us immediate satisfaction, we move on to whatever does. We've become a society that wants to be entertained, not endured. We want the reward without having to wait, the progress without process, the joy without the journey. But that's not how life or faith actually works. Christy's dad, Mick, used to say, some of the best things in life come through delayed gratification. He was right. There's a deep satisfaction that only comes when you wait, when you work, when you invest, when you stay. Mick exemplified these truths. His life was defined by unwavering faith, quiet resilience, and enduring love. Mick exemplified this truth. His life was defined by unwavering faith, quiet resilience, and enduring love. In honor of his legacy, we named one of our roasts Shepherd's Lighthouse. It's more than just coffee. It's a reminder that light doesn't fade in hard seasons. It stands, ready to guide others home. You can read more of his story on our page, a story of faithfulness through both plenty and lack, and a life that showed us what grace that stays really looks like. It's faith that lasts, love that keeps showing up, grace that doesn't fade when the new wears off. The truth is, growth that lasts rarely happens fast, whether it's in marriage, ministry, or maturity. The things that matter most take time to develop. And that's why so many of us struggle. We mistake God's slower pace for his absence. We think if something isn't moving quickly, it's not working. But sometimes the most sacred work God does isn't in the moments of excitement. It's in the long stretch of faithfulness. That's where many of us stumble, not in the starting, but in the staying, because beginnings are full of energy and optimism, but staying requires endurance, patience, and trust that God is still working even when we can't feel it. Christy and I have seen this play out in real time. There have been seasons where ministry was exciting, where everything seemed to click and God's hand felt unmistakably close. And then there were seasons where it felt like we were just showing up and sowing seeds that never seemed to sprout. In those moments, I've often looked back and realized God was doing more in me than through me. He was teaching me to abide, to stay near when I didn't have all the answers. There's something powerful about just staying in the room, staying in the conversation, staying faithful even when you feel small. And that's exactly what Jesus was talking about in John 15, when he told his disciples, "Abide in me, and I in you." He wasn't calling them to believe. He was inviting them to remain, to stay connected, to walk with him not just in miracles or on mountaintops, but in the quiet, steady grind of faith. So let's talk about John 15:4 and 5. Jesus says, "Abide in me and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing." That word abide means to remain, to stay close, stay connected. It's not flashy, it's not quick, it's not about what we can do for God. It's about being with Him long enough for His life to flow through ours. The branch doesn't try to impress the vine, it doesn't strive to bear fruit, it simply stays connected. And because it stays connected, fruit comes naturally. That's what grace that stays looks like. It's a slow, steady faith, one that trusts that presence is more powerful than performance. If you've been walking with Jesus for any length of time, you know that staying isn't always easy. There are seasons when the vine feels silent, when prayers feel dry, and when scripture feels like words you're reading but not hearing. Christy and I have both had those days. Days where prayer feels like they're bouncing off the ceiling, where your time in scripture feels more like duty than delight. And it's in those very moments that abiding becomes most powerful, because abiding is rarely about feeling, it's about faithfulness. Paul wrote in Galatians 2:20, I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. In the life I live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. That's staying faith. A life that depends on Christ not just for salvation, but for every moment after. Maybe you're in a season right now that feels like you're just trying to hold on. You're showing up, but it's hard. You're praying, but it feels like silence. You're believing, but the fruit hasn't shown yet. Can I remind you? Faith that stays is still faith. Grace that holds on is still grace. And Jesus isn't disappointed in your small endurance. He delights in it. Sometimes when I think about what it means to abide, I think about how coffee beans grow. They don't grow overnight. They take years. Root systems form deep in the soil before the first bloom ever appears. It's slow work, but it's steady. If the roots grow too fast, the plant can't hold the fruit. If the conditions are rushed, the beans lose their richness. Faith works the same way. God's process to us is slow, not because He's stalling, but because He's strengthening. He's deepening your roots so you can carry the fruit to come. So if you're still waiting, stay rooted. If you're still trusting, stay near. Because fruit takes time, but the vine never forgets its branches. Staying doesn't mean standing still. It means standing with, remaining connected to the one who holds you when you can't hold yourself. Like we talked about last week, Isaiah 40:31 says, But they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. That's not just about waiting for circumstances to change. That's about waiting in God, staying near Him long enough for His strength to renew yours. Sometimes the holiest thing you can do is not walk away, to keep showing up in prayer, to keep loving when it's hard, to keep trusting when you don't understand. Because staying rooted in grace, that's what allows the fruit of the Spirit to grow. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. So maybe today, instead of chasing something new, the invitation is to stay. Stay in His Word, even when it feels quiet. Stay in prayer, even when the answers don't come fast. Stay faithful in the work God's given you, even when it feels small. Because the same grace that saved you is the grace that sustains you. And if you keep abiding, you'll find that fruit grows quietly, even in the grind. As we prepare to pour our final cup next week, I want to leave you with this. Every cup of Grace in the Grind has been about learning to see God's presence in the middle of real life, in the small, the slow, and the everyday. Next time, we'll look back on this journey together and look ahead to what's next, because the same God who met us here is already preparing the next pour. Thank you for joining me for this 11th cup of Grace in the Grind. If this episode encouraged you, share it with a friend, because grace multiplies when it's shared. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe so you never miss your next pour. Now, before we wrap up, I've got someone special joining me, my wife, Christy. If you've been with us since the beginning, you've heard me mention her often. She's been behind the scenes in every cup, praying, encouraging, antagonizing, and helping shape what is Grace in the Grind. And together, we're really excited to tell you about what's coming next.
Hey everyone! I'm so excited to be a part of the conversation today. As Grace in the Grind finishes this first pot, we're getting ready to pour something new. A short, practical series we're calling Coffee Break, Biblical Truth on Parenting. These will be quick, real-life conversations, usually under 20 minutes, for parents who are probably listening on double speed while folding laundry, cleaning up spills, or just trying to get everyone out the door on time. We'll be diving into wisdom from Proverbs and other passages to help encourage and equip you right in the middle of the messy, beautiful work of parenting.
We can't wait to share these coffee breaks with you. And our hope is that they'll become a fresh pour of encouragement in your week. So stay tuned because the conversation isn't ending, it's just getting a refill. And remember, grace isn't just for Sundays or special moments, it's for every day, even in the grind. I'm Cody.
And I'm Christy, and this has been Grace in the Grind, a part of Arrow and Roots Coffee Company. Until next time, keep your coffee strong and your faith stronger.